Hi, and welcome back to the HSP Connection with me, Robbie Lee.
And me, Philippa Robinson. This is where we share our stories, insights, and strategies to help fellow highly sensitive people navigate their own path to living a fulfilling and meaningful life. So, Robbie, what are we talking about today?
Well, today we're talking about body. And
Bodies,
when
our
I say
bodies.
that, yeah, our own bodies. Yeah, when I say that, um, I know for me, I feel something in my body, and I imagine others might as well. Did anything happen for you when I said the word body?
I think probably what comes up for me is that, oh, we talk about, like, because my body has
Yeah.
been a big thing for so long for me, literally
Yes.
a big thing for so long,
Yeah.
that it's I think it's a topic. I think actually it's a subject that would have filled me with dread probably only a
Mm.
year ago, let alone a few years ago. Whereas actually now, not quite so much. So
Hmm.
I think it really piques my interest. So that's what happens for me. It doesn't fill me with a sense of dread, luckily,
Love
because
that.
we haven't done a podcast episode yet on a subject that fills me with dread. So maybe that's going to happen sometime. But yeah, how about you? How about you?
Yeah, it doesn't fill me with dread either, but I've had a similar. I mean, I relate to what you just said. If this had come up a while ago, I would be thinking something different. And I'm still on a journey with my body, as with pretty much everything we talk about on here. Still on a journey.
Yeah.
But it does, like, I've been in preparation for this, I've been thinking a lot about my relationship with my body and how it has changed throughout my life. And I mean, when I was young, the message out in the world was thin was beautiful for a woman, right? Like basically the thinner the better. And the message in my household was that my mom was fat. Like my dad said that, and then my mom said that. I know. It was hard to hear a parent say that about another parent and that fat was bad, right? Mom was fat and fat is bad, like all of that together. And I grew up with my mom just constantly being on a diet and constantly thinking she was too fat. And one of my earliest memories of that was thinking, you're not fat. Like I remember disagreeing with that and
Yeah.
wondering,
Why is this
oh,
all
what?
happening? Why is this a
Yeah,
thing? Yeah.
yeah. But then as I got older and the message was just so prevalent and everywhere. And I was very thin as a child. I was just naturally thin. Didn't do anything to be thin, just was. But as that message kept getting reinforced, I kind of wore my thinness as a badge of honor. It was like getting straight A's. It's like, oh, I'm winning at this thing. That's good, right? Fat is bad and I'm not fat. So that's good. And then as I started, you know, it was probably college. I started putting on weight, and there was a trauma that happened that I can point to. I started gaining weight, and I look back at pictures of myself then, and I was still thin, but I weighed more than I was used to weighing, and so I started calling myself fat. So, and then that has progressed. Like I have, I have done since in my adulthood every diet imaginable and with the goal of being thinner, of being
Mm.
less of me in the world, and my body has just continued to get bigger. Like that's just been my kind of my journey as an adult.
Mm.
And that's just weight. Like there's so much more to do with body than just weight. So much more. Because then I've dealt with some chronic illness and some injury, and I noticed that I was like blaming my body for those things.
Mm.
And I have done so much healing work with my, like, loving on myself and my body and thanking it for all the amazing effing things it does. I mean, our bodies are miraculous, honestly. So it's fascinating to me because I'm the biggest I've ever been. And growing up, like, biggest was worst. right. So it's like, in that sense, I should probably feel the worst about my body, but I don't. I don't feel the worst about my body.
Right.
I love myself. I love my body. I'm so grateful for it.
Mm.
Um, and I'm still working on it. Like it's, there are still parts that I'm like, oh, okay. And I'll have a thought comes up and I'll notice it. And I'll be
Mm.
like, it's always around my stomach. My stomach is the area. There's something about that. A fat stomach means something to me. It's very interesting. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when
But
you
I'll hand the
said,
reins over. I talked a lot. It's your turn.
yeah, no, no. And, when you said, I think you said, I'm the biggest I've ever been, but, and I'm happy with that. I'm the happiest as well with my body. And, you love yourself. And like my inner child is going, yeah. I definitely had quite a reaction to that because,
Yeah.
it's almost like, fat. And actually, before we carry on, a lot of people don't like the word fat. We were just
Yeah.
talking about the word sensitive and owning the word sensitive. And I'm quite happy to say I'm a fat woman. I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with that. It's a fact. I'm not
Right.
thin. I am fat.
Right.
But I have every right to be, I'm a human being. I'm in a bigger body. That doesn't make me any less worthy or
That's right.
any less at all than anybody in a thin body.
That's
And
right.
I've done a lot of work to get to this place, having grown up with a mother who was utterly obsessed with being acceptable. She wasn't slim naturally. She had a big bust and she was short and she was round and she had a lovely body, but was never happy with it. She had been, I've seen photographs of when she was sort of her late teens and she was big. And then I've seen pictures of her just after having me, and she was stick thin. That was the late 60s, early 70s, and she was stick thin. I didn't recognize her in those photos. Actually, she must have eaten nothing to be that size.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't her natural way of being. And I was put on my first diet at 7 because I was not a thin child. I was a big child, and she put me on a diet at 7 because I was deemed to be unacceptable. And I have known since that age that I am big, and that is not okay.
Oh,
wow. And it took me to probably being 50 to realize that thinking like that was doing me no good at all.
Yeah.
And, like you, I've tried every diet under the sun. I've been to Weight Watchers. I've been to this. I've been to that. None of them worked because they don't, because they're not designed to work. Because if they worked, we'd only ever need to go to once and then you wouldn't need to go back. They rely on them not working, really, and you having to keep going back. And it's like we're fighting. Well, we're fighting all sorts, actually. We're fighting nature. We're fighting all, the ease of buying food and the ease of which is not particularly good food, but also what I was fighting was my demons.
That's right.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because I spent a lot of time as a child being quiet and well, not being quiet, but shrinking. I did voice how I felt some of the time, so I wasn't very meek and quiet, but shrinking and trying to be small because that's where I felt it was safe. But my body got bigger, and I always thought it was a weird thing. Like, when I'm trying to be small, how am I getting bigger? But I think now, after a lot of the work that I've done, I realized that the bigness, the size, was to protect that me inside. It was like my cushion against the world. You can be horrible to me. You can tell me I'm unacceptable. You can tell me I don't look nice. You can tell me all those things, but you can only get that far. You can't get any further than that because I have this layer sort of protecting me. And I think that, I don't suppose it's quite complicated. So I don't suppose I'll ever get right to the bottom of it. But I think that's where I have got to. And, you know, I realized lately, you know, I don't really think about my body anymore, anywhere near as much as I used to do. I would love to be in a smaller body. I would love to. Not necessarily at any cost, but like not necessarily money, but money cost, but not like emotional cost and not eating and all of those things. But if so, I could wait, you know, if we could get that magic wand and go, you know, you can have a thinner body, I would love to. But it's not the be all and end all that it used to be. And I used to think that if I was just thin, then my life would be okay. And I realized, it took me a long time to realize that that was I could blame everything that went wrong in my life on being fat. So that gave me something to stop me having to look at other things. And that's why I didn't dare lose weight.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I didn't dare lose the weight because I think I probably knew what I found out as I hit 40. I'd had both my children and I wasn't going to have any more. And I felt pretty like I'd had such a great birth with the second one. And I was like, yeah, if I could do that, I could do anything. And I thought, right, I'm going to lose weight. And I lost 5 stone in 5 months by like on the, you know, food meal replacement. So not eating food and having meal replacements. And I was the thinnest I'd ever been. And what I feared came true because I was thinner, a lot thinner, and I was still unhappy.
Yeah.
And I didn't have anything to blame it on then, did I? So yeah, but I did learn. That was amazing. It was an amazing thing to do because I learned that actually being happy wasn't about being thin.
Yeah, it's really helpful information.
Yeah.
But painful in the moment, for sure.
Yeah.
Painful in the moment.
Yeah. Sorry, I've just talked a lot there, but
it's great.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey. When you were talking, it really made me think that there's a few things here, isn't there? There's weight, there's the actual weight, like what do the numbers say on the scales, which some people get like to focus on. You know, there's how we look, you know, how we look, how we, you know, and also how we are perceived by others and how other people feel that they react to us or tell us. I used to get all the time when I was a child, oh, Philippa, she's got such a lovely face, but it's a shame about, you know, and then that used to peter out. And I'm like, oh my goodness me, what sort of message is that to give a child?
Oh my gosh.
I know.
It's so painful to hear.
I know.
Yeah, people commented on my body too as a kid, and it was like my thinness was a good thing, but then I didn't have any boobs, and so that was always commented on, like my lack of boobs, which I got when I got fat. I'll tell you that.
So there you are. I got them now.
So there you go.
And we decided on this topic after we recorded the comparison episode, the previous episode to this, because when we stopped recording, we just started talking about our bodies, didn't we? Because that's another place that we compare ourselves. And I know that, you know, obviously we're both women, so we can only talk about our experience.
Yeah.
And I always used to think men didn't have that. But I think men do get that now as well. I think it's across the board.
Yeah.
And it is this whole like thin is good. You know, you are a good person just because you're thin. No, being thin or fat or anything in between, or it does not make you a good person. Like it's not like that's where good starts. And I don't know, is the opposite bad? You know, it's not about that. And we've all got so, I was going to say twisted. It's all got so, I don't know, unkind as much as anything else.
Absolutely. I mean, somehow the message of body size and shape got tied to morality, because the
Yes.
messages growing up, was just like, you're a good person if you're thin, and there's something wrong with you. You're a bad person if you're fat.
Yeah.
And first of all, people come in so many different sizes and shapes just naturally, and then add stress, and then add coping skills, and then add trauma, and then add the quality of food people have access to, and the quality of healthcare. Like, there's just so many things. And to just package it all up into thin good, fat bad, is just so unhelpful and unhealthy. And I remember, I don't know, maybe 20 years or so now, because fat jokes have just been so prevalent in our society for so long, and I remember at one point posting something that said, is fat really the worst thing I could be in the world, is fat? Because that seemed like the message I was getting. And I thought, I reject that. I reject that notion. Like, that has nothing to do with who I am as a person.
Exactly.
There's just nothing. And I mentioned this on another episode. I'm thrilled that we're getting different images now of body shapes and sizes that are being revered,
Yeah.
but it's still a really big conversation. There's still a lot of that undercurrent of thin is good and fat is bad. I mean, there's just still a lot of that out there. And I think part of the reason it upsets me so much is also to reduce somebody to the number on a scale is just so, I don't even know the word. It's so ridiculous, and it's so belittling.
Yes.
And there's a thread for me too of women, like the ideal woman. The message I heard so much growing up was that she was thin, right? So small, like small, don't take up room, right?
Yeah, yes.
Don't be loud, and don't take up room, and be frail, and
And don't be angry, and don't be any of these things. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's, you brought up anger, and I wasn't allowed to express those kinds of emotions growing up. I think my body absorbed those things. Like, I know it absorbed trauma for me, which I'm actively working on. But I mean, our fat creates this protective layer, as you were talking about. And I tell my fat thank you. Like, it's doing a helpful thing for me. It's trying to help me and protect me. And I spent so many years being mad at it. But yeah, it's our body sizes and our body abilities have nothing to do with morality. And I think we need to separate those two things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know what it's like in the US, but here I definitely also feel that it's almost linked within, in a way, intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
You can't be intelligent and be fat, because or it's an education issue, that all you have to do is educate fat people, and all of a sudden they'll start eating. I mean, we all know the equation is, eat less
calories in, calories out.
Calories that you're, as long as you burn more calories than you're eating, you will lose weight. And the idea is to get to a place where the amount that you're eating is balanced by the exercise you're taking, and you'll stay the same weight. I mean, we all know that. It's not rocket science. I don't need telling that. I can tell you how many calories there are in an egg. I can tell you how many, I know that. I know.
Yep.
And also, it is not that easy. If it was that easy, there wouldn't be the issues that a lot of people are making about the number of bigger people that are around these days.
That's right.
Now, whether that is a problem, as big a problem as it's been made out to, right, I'm not sure, to be fair. But it's not just education or intelligence or any of those things. When I see a fat person, I wonder, how they've got to be like that, because nobody wants to be fat. No fat person wants to be fat. I don't think. I think some people don't mind being fat, and I don't mind being the size I am, but I would, okay, maybe I shouldn't say no one, but I don't know anybody who wouldn't, if there were no repercussions and or whatever, you know, wave a magic wand, you have a smaller body. For me, it was trauma, absolutely. For me, it was absorbing all my feelings like you. It was my protection. And I think a lot of that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not seen. That's not understood. It's not wanted to be more complicated.
Yeah. And then add to the mix, you know, women's hormones, because again, all I can speak of is my own experience as a woman, but hormones, and then perimenopause and menopause and things that I really wasn't educated on that really impacted my body.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know, there's just so many things. And again, all we've talked about at this point is weight. But another body thing that I think about is gray hair. And it's one of the things from the pandemic that I'm grateful for, is to see more women just having their natural hair instead of feeling like they had to color it in order to be acceptable, you know?
Yeah. There's a lot
Because
more gray people, gray men as well, but I think more women would dyed their gray hair. Yeah, I love it that there's more. Yeah, that there's more women just owning their gray hair.
Yeah.
And with that comes a talk about being old, like growing old or aging. Right. You know, and
aging in our bodies. Yeah.
And do we do, you know, do we do work, have work done? Do we apply this, that, and the other? You know, and that's coming more to appearance, but it's all the same. It's all the appearance of our body, isn't it?
It is. And it's just interesting that there's so much judgment around the appearance of body.
Yes.
And there, you know, a few years ago, I was really aware that I was being unkind to myself in my thoughts, like around how I looked. And I did this exercise where I just sat with myself and I asked myself for those thoughts. Like, what are the thoughts that come up, the negative things I've said to myself about the way I look? And I expected things around weight. I expected, I used to have a lot of acne as a kid, so I expected some of that, like skin, and I was, when I had my hair long, I have a lot of hair, but it's very thin. And so I was always fighting with my hair, so I expected those things. And I sat there, I don't even know how long, and I was amazed. Philippa was like, I've said negative things about my eyebrows, the shape of my eyebrows, my eyelashes. They weren't long enough or thick enough, or they didn't curl properly. The acne came up, skin was too oily in some places and too dry in others. It was wrinkly over here. I had big freckles, and my fingernails, hairy knuckles on my big toe. Oh, the shape of my toes. We're going to talk about that. You know, too much leg hair, or too dark. Not thick enough hair here. My teeth were not white enough. Like every part of the outside of my body, the shape of my breasts, the shape of this, everything I had made some kind of negative comment about, and not just once. And it blew my mind. And I was so sad for my body. I'm just like, my body, which carries me around in the world, which allows me to get oxygen, my heart beats, but I have muscles and like, I don't even understand all of how my body works, but I know that it just works. Fucking incredible. Like, that's amazing. But all I was doing is nitpicking the external appearance, which really didn't fucking matter. And I went through, like, I went through an exercise with myself of just um, sending every ounce of my body a ton of love, of asking for forgiveness, of telling it what a fucking rock star it is for doing all this for me. But it really blew my mind how much I nitpicked everything about myself. And I'm sure I'm not alone. Like, I'm sure not. We see it modeled everywhere.
We do. Oh,
Yeah.
I was feeling quite emotional listening to you saying all that. I totally recognize that. Mm-hmm. And like you say, I'm sure there are plenty of people listening to this. I'm sure somebody listening to this is thinking, yeah, I'm really getting what you're talking about.
Yeah. And it's so easy to fall into that trap because it is a thing that is talked about a lot in our society, and there are certain rules for how you look. And I mean, I noticed as I got bigger and as I got older, I was treated differently in the workplace. I saw it happen. And so these things exist. I mean, they're true. And what I don't want to do is stop myself from doing things or treat myself that way or tell myself stories about being less than.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that anymore. I remember maybe a decade ago, I thought about doing a coaching business. And I thought, but I'm too fat. Oh. And let me just tell you, like, that was literally the first thought, but I'm too fat. No one will hire a coach. Let me tell you, I weigh way more now than I weighed then. And spoiler alert, I'm an incredible coach. Because weight, surprisingly, has nothing to do with my ability
to
coach people. Yeah. But those are those can be some of those internal barriers, those stories that we absorb from the outside, right? That we then start telling ourselves, oh, well, I'm less than because of this thing. And I just want to encourage people to maybe look at those stories, that you're telling yourself and start unwinding those because they're not true.
No. And I think when we've grown up with the message that perhaps there's something about us that's not okay or should be different, then it's a very easy step to get that critical about yourself. And like you said, being critical about every little bit, and without realizing that that's what we're doing. And we are telling, we wouldn't say that to, I wouldn't say that to you, no. And you wouldn't say it to me, but we do say it to ourselves.
Yeah. And would you say it to a child?
Well, no.
Right.
No. And when you have children, when I have my own children, and I then imagine I wouldn't dream of saying that. So, right. And that was very much my mum's story. She was told that
it's her own wounding.
Yeah, exactly. And I think sometimes taking stock, like you described, and one of the things I did when I was in therapy was my therapist asked me to do some mirror work. Mm-hmm. And and she just said start off with just 2 minutes and just have a handheld mirror and just look just look at yourself. And I did that for 3 weeks before I stopped, before I could do it without crying every day.
2 minutes is a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all I could see in my eyes was the pain. All I could see was pain and unworthiness and longing for something different. And I do feel very different now. And that's the sort of thing that's needed to I needed And I'm sure, you know, it's hard work to bring ourselves back to a place of being okay with what, with, you know, I mean, I'm not saying fat is okay. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying I am fat and I am okay.
Yeah.
But the fat has got nothing to do with the fat. I'm okay. I am okay. But like you, I like speaking. I would have liked to have spoken more and been able to stand up in front of people and speak. And I was okay with that at school. I loved it. I was always picked to, because I've got quite a loud voice, I was always picked to do speaking parts in like primary school. And then I refused after that because I became aware that people would be judging the way I looked when I stood up to speak. And I have refused to do it steadfastly all my adult life. I have refused, all the way through work, I refused to do talks of any kind. And when I started my own podcast, the precursor to this, I only did audio only because I didn't want to do video. But then I decided, okay, next step, I'm going to do video. And that's been really good for me. And working on Zoom has been really good for me to look at myself, like I'm looking at myself now recording this on Zoom, and, you know, and you're looking at yourself. I can do this now and not hate the way I look and not be nitpicking at myself. But it takes a while to get to this stage.
It really does.
And
it's all about self-love.
Yes.
For me. Yeah.
Exactly.
What were you going to say?
Well, that's what I was about to say. Oh. It's not about looking at my appearance and thinking I look great or I look okay. It's more about like looking in my eyes and like seeing who I really am.
That's right.
And loving that person. That's right. That's who's okay. That's who's lovable. That's who I love. Irrespective of what the outside looks like.
That's right.
Grey hair and all, or silver.
Your gorgeous silver hair. Yes.
Although actually with this light, it doesn't look silver. But anyway, that's all beside the point. I used to when my kids were young, so I've got teenagers now. So I was like 37 and 39 when I had my kids. And I used to get old ladies who live around here asking them if they were out with Granny for the day. I was like, oh, great. That's nothing. Yeah, that makes me feel good. But actually, you know, got it. Yeah, doesn't matter, does it?
It's all those messages we get.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, the age those ladies were, I probably would have been a granny in their generation. So I used to try and find it funny, but it's okay, you know, we can try and brush it off and we can try and pretend it doesn't matter. But sometimes, you know, it does get to us on the quiet, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. You know, and thinking about aging again, like it's another thing that women aren't supposed to do. We're supposed to stay young and thin and quiet, right? But oh my gosh, now I was about to say I love being older, and that is a very true statement. I am so much more myself than I've ever been, and it has not been a smooth ride. So that's also true. Like I've had some major health challenges and my body doesn't bounce back the way it used to. And, you know, I don't feel like physically, I don't feel as comfortable in my body. Like I am still working out some health things. So those are all true, but also just like getting older and owning my space, even though I have gray hair, even though I have wrinkles, even though I'm fat. Just like, yeah, fuck it, man. You know, like I'm a human and I'm just existing and I have the right to exist.
And I, for one, am very glad you do exist and that we're here doing this together.
Me too.
You know, I agree with you. And, you know, I follow quite a lot of women now on social media who are older. And, you know, there is a lot of, it's almost like, you know, once you get to this age, I'm a little bit older than you, but we're both our ages begin with a 5, and you know, and actually that's just sort of stopped me in my tracks, thinking, oh, here we are, 50-year-old women pontificating about all these things. But why shouldn't we? You know, why shouldn't we have a platform like this and talk about our experience? And you know, in years, not that long ago, 50-year-old women would not be doing this because, we would be keeping quiet and, what would we be doing? We'd be looking after grandchildren or something or whatever. I don't know. And I don't know. I think I have quite a lot of clients around my age, and I say, I think we're a different generation. We are now a generation who's hitting this age without an example from previous generations about how to do 50 in a way that is meaningful to us. So we are having to find our way with this. And I mean, I'm loving it. This is my favorite decade so far, largely to do with all the work that I did in the previous decade. And now I feel like I'm the best version of me I've ever been. Only ever been. I think hopefully there's better versions to come. I would love to stop the clock ticking now. I can't go back. I'd love to freeze in time now and not age anymore because, aches and pains and my eyes and everything. But I'm aiming to grow old disgracefully, and I don't know, just carry on doing what feels right, doing what feels good for me.
Yes.
And not really caring too much about anybody who might disapprove, because that's fine. Don't have anything to do with me if you disapprove. It's fine.
It's so true. I just think about all the energy I wasted. First of all, saying those negative things to myself, and also just thinking about how other people were going to interact with my body, and what they were going to think about it, and how they I went to the farmer's market this weekend with extremely hairy legs, and
I heard about that. It made the news.
Couldn't give a crap, and it's just like, I never would have even considered that before. Just so, I think the messages are just like, there's something wrong with you in your natural state.
Yeah.
And I'm rejecting that more and more. Rejecting it. I'm also, as I talked about, I'm sending more and more love to my body, and I'm working on how can I even be kinder to myself? How can I process the trauma that is stored in here, and how can I give myself the best nutrients? And and how do I increase my mobility? And I'm doing those things, and to me those are acts of love toward myself. Exactly. But I'm tired of the mindset I've had, which is, once I get to this size, I'm worthy. Once I look this way, I'm worthy. Once I fill in the blank, I'm worthy. Like, I'm worthy now.
Yeah, you are.
And so are you, and so is everyone. We are worthy now.
Yeah. I love that. I think, shall we leave it there?
I like it. Yeah.
Oh, I still want to tell this little story. Just one little story. What's been really good for me, listeners to this podcast will know that I go cold water swimming, and it's nearly a year since I started, so the water was warmer, and I've gone all winter. But what I have been doing 2 or 3 times a week is standing on the side of the marine lake with lots of strangers that I don't know in a swimming costume. So anybody in a bigger body knows the terror of not only finding a swimming costume in the first place, and then sort of being seen in it. And doing that repeatedly has actually been really liberating. And I'm just like, and also there's lots of other women there. Well, there's a lot more women than men, but there's lots of bodies there, all shapes and sizes, and we're all just getting on with it and doing it and swimming. And that for me has been really, really liberating. I even wore a bikini last year, and I'm just like,
incredible.
Yes. So the bikini will be coming out again sometime soon. So, I am worthy to do that now.
Yes.
Like you said. And it's taken me to do it over and over again and realize it's okay, because I was very nervous about it at the beginning, like, oh, and actually nobody cares. So why should I care? And I don't care now. So we are all worthy.
Beautiful.
Now, aren't we?
Now. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to say that. I wanted to tell
I'm
you.
so glad you shared that. I love that story.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
Okay.
Yes.
So now we are finished, I think, are we? Have you said everything you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we always think of things afterward, but I think we're at a good spot.
Okay. I think we're at a good spot too. So we'll end it there. Thank you for listening, and bye from me till next time.
And bye from me.
Thanks for listening to HSP Connection. If you've enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes. Also, we'd really appreciate it if you could rate the podcast and share it with anyone you think might be interested. It helps others find us. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, you can also leave us a review.
To get in touch with us, you can email us at hspconnectionpodcast@gmail.com. And we'd love to hear from you with your thoughts and comments on the episodes and any suggestions you have for future topics and guests.
We are both HSP coaches and speakers. And to find out more about Robbie, go to Robbie Lee, that's leigh.com.
And to find out more about Philippa, go to safeandsupported.co.uk. See you next time.